This deal was really pushed by the U.S. Because what happened, two important things happened. This is U.S. leverage that really pushed the U.S. to intervene. One was the October 8th bombing of the funeral of a tribal chief, killing 140 people, including precisely the kind of people, tribal chiefs and sheikhs, that you need to hold the peace in Yemen. So this was a huge human disaster. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon calling it a possible war crime. The second, and this has been largely overlooked because the Yemen conflict is overlooked, is that the U.S. for the first time last week directly targeted rebel positions in Yemen. What happened was that there were some missile strikes at a U.S. warship. They didn't hit the warship, but the U.S. had to retaliate, essentially was forced to retaliate because, what we're talking about here is the Red Sea navigation. This is a very strategic area, particularly the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. It's a gateway for oil tankers going to Europe via the Suez Canal. So you could see the U.S. hesitation. It was a very moderate response, but they simply had to intervene. What the U.S. does not want to see is mission creep. Don't forget that the U.S. is a Saudi ally, but the U.S. has never had a problem with Houthi rebels. They are a Shiite group. They come from the impoverished north. They are not a threat to U.S. interests. What was a threat to U.S. interests was Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, who are Sunnis and a sort of natural enemy of the Houthis. The U.S. has been dragged into this because it is a supporter of the Saudis. The Saudi campaign is extremely unpopular. Anti-U.S. sentiment was anyway high in Yemen, and now the U.S. sentiment is rising even further. If there are direct strikes, the U.S. does not want to see mission creep in this area, and so you can see Washington arm twisting all parties to come together to hammer out this deal.
The ceasefire is due to start just before midnight local time, and it's meant to last 3 days. What are the chances of it holding?
Well, ceasefires have not lasted. This is a 19-month conflict. So to be realistic, there's not that much optimism. For a real deal to hold, what is really needed, like with all wars, is a political solution. Now, one of the main problems of the Yemen crisis is that we tend to look at it as a regional problem between Sunni Saudi Arabia versus Iran-backed Shiite rebels. But the problem is, it's very much a domestic issue. Now, Yemen is a very notoriously difficult country to administer. Administering Yemen has been likened to dancing on the heads of snakes. The problem is the current president, President Hadi, is not a dancer, and he by far cannot dance on the heads of snakes. So what we have now is a leader with very little political support. And because he lacks political support, he's had to turn to his northern powerful neighbor and his western allies. But really, administering Yemen is a bit like administering countries like Somalia and Afghanistan. These are countries with long histories of conflict, well-armed populace, and you need a sort of a big tent approach and Yemen has a past history of that. A player can make an alliance with a former enemy. All parties need to be together at the table. The Saudis are essentially propping President Hadi, who's not even in the country right now, has no political support, and has never made any outreach to the Houthis. So in order for the Saudis to yield on this and for President Hadi to yield on this, Washington needs to make sure that there is a really inclusive deal that also includes economic packages, because this conflict began in an impoverished north. So we should stop looking at this. It is true that it's a regional game, but essentially the nuts and bolts of Yemen need to be worked out for this peace deal to hold, really.